Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good middle of the night. I hope you're doing well, wherever you now find you. We want to talk about categorical propositions as the building blocks of Aristotelian arguments. Now, a categorical proposition is a declarative statement that relates two classes of things together. Remember, it has to be a declarative statement or a proposition because it has to be either true or false. It can't be an exclamation, a command, or an interrogative. And by a category, we mean a group of things that share similar characteristics that can be grouped together, as we talked about in our earlier discussion of the universal and the particular. Now, a categorical proposition then makes a certain kind of truth claim. It claims that a certain relationship exists between two categories of things, which are called respectively the subject category and the predicate. So suppose I made a claim that all Jedi are Force-sensitive beings. In doing so, I would be making a claim about two categories of things. I would be making a claim about the category or class of Jedi and the category or class of Force-sensitive beings. And what I would be claiming is that it's true that every member of the class of Jedi is included in the class of Force-sensitive beings. We would also say that I was making an affirmative proposition. I was affirming that one class was included in the other class. Now, in categorical logic, there are four such types of statements. Right? Consider them with me. Here, 1, all Jedi are Force-sensitive beings. 2, some Wookiees are starship pilots. 3, no Jedi or Sith. And 4, some Jedi are not human beings. Because, of course, as we all know, there are many Jedi who are not human beings, like the great Kit Fisto, or Shaak Ti, and so on, right? Not to mention the great Plo Koon, who is not shown here, I think, sadly. But Plo Koon is indeed a great Jedi, and I'm sure you can call him to mind. Now, each of these make a certain kind of claim. In this one, we're claiming that every member of the class of Jedi is included in the class of Force-sensitive beings. Here, we're claiming that at least one Wookiee, right, a class consisting of at least one Wookiee, though maybe more, is included in the class of starship pilots. Here, we're claiming that there's no intersection of the class between Jedi and Sith, that there's not one member of the class of Jedi that is included in the class of the Sith. And here we're claiming some Jedi are not human beings, which would mean that there is at least one Jedi that's not included in the category of being human. Right now, some in logic mean at least one, but maybe more. It's a different kind of propositional variable. In Aristotelian logic, instead of using our P, Q, R's, and S's, which we would use in symbolic logic, we're going to use a capital letter S and a capital letter P. And S is going to stand for the subject class, and P is going to stand for the predicate class. So if we look at these four different types of, statements here, all dogs are animals, all philosophers are lovers of wisdom, all trees are plants, and all electrons are negatively charged particles, and if we put them into their universal form, they would all have the same form. They would all be a substitution instance of all S or P. Dog is the subject, animals are the predicate. Philosophers the subject, lovers of wisdom is the predicate class. Trees is the subject class, plants are the predicate class, electrons are the subject class, and here negatively charged particles are the predicate class. Now clearly each statement has a different subject or predicate. Each subject and predicate is very different from each other, but what they all have in common is they share the same form of all S or P. So if we want to pull out the universal form of our previous four examples, all Jedi are Force-sensitive beings is of the form all S or P. Some Wookiees are starship pilots has the form some S R P. No Jedi or Sith has the form no S or P. And some Jedi are not human beings has the form some S or not P. And this is called the standard form for a categorical proposition. And we have to learn to be able to put any statement into this exact form, or it won't work. It won't compute. It's like when you're doing computer programming. If you enter something wrong, the machine will freeze up. When you're doing programming, you have to put it in the exact order to make the thing work. And the same is true here. So we'll learn to translate statements in ordinary language or in using different terms into something that fits these exact parameters. Every one of the statement will always have a quantifier, which will be all, no, or some. It'll have a subject term, and it'll have the so-called copula, the verb that joins. That'll always be are or are not, and it'll have a predicate term, right? So if you look at this statement, for example, all students are always late to logic class because he or she refuses to buy an alarm clock, or persons who make their professors sigh when he or she enters the classroom. Well, the one with the single underlining is the subject, and that's S. And persons who make the professor sigh when he or she enters the classroom is the predicate class, so it has the form all S or P. Now, traditionally, these four types of prepositions have been referred to by letters, A, I, E, and O. And this comes from medieval times when medieval logicians would have to memorize, or even medieval schoolboys would have to memorize these, and there was a memory device they would use, affirmo nego. And see the A-I-E-O, right? And affirmo means I affirm, and so these two are called affirmative propositions, all are and some are, and the nego means I deny, and we have E-O, right? No Jedi are Sith, and some Jedi are not human beings. And you just have to memorize these and be able to put them. For example, I need to be able to ask you, what's the form of this statement? And you'd tell me all S or P. And what kind is it? And you'd say it's an A. So let's practice this, right? Suppose I could simply ask you to identify the following propositions as A, I, E, or O propositions. Right? And you need to be able to look at them and just say them just like this, right? No muggles or magic users, right? That's an E. All wizards are magic users. Well, that's an A proposition. Some house elves are brave creatures. Yes, and remember, some means at least one. And we know there's at least one, and there he is, the great Dobie, right? And so some house elves are brave creatures is an I proposition. Some teachers of potions are not truly evil wizards, right? And that would be an O proposition. And you perhaps recognize I'm referring to Snape there, because he wasn't an evil wizard. He was just the bravest of them all. Okay? Now, no employees who work at the Ministry of Magic are muggles. Well, that's an E proposition, right? And notice what the subject term is. Employees who work at the Ministry of Magic, and the predicate term is muggles. Okay? Number 6, some students who study at Hogwarts are members of the Quidditch team. So that's an I. It has the form some S or P. All true supporters of the boy who lived are wizards who would never knowingly support the Dark Lord. And that has the form all S or P and is an A. And no drinkers of butterbeer are persons capable of escaping a fine white foam mustache on their upper lips. Right? And that's an E proposition and has the form no S or P. Notice what the subject here is. The subject is drinkers of butterbeer. And then the predicate class would be persons capable of escaping a fine white foam mustache on their upper lips. So this is our first little step in learning to master the syllogism. We'll talk about it more next time. And I'll just leave you here looking at this great house elf hero to inspire us in these dark times. Thank you for your kind attention.